Hi everybody, it's Marianne. It's So Right. Today I'm going to be talking about buttonholes, and I am going to be working on a Brother machine. This type of buttonhole is very common in most machines, the way I'm going to do it. And I am going to do a standard buttonhole, nothing like they call a keyhole. I'm not going to do those things, just a standard buttonhole. But what I want to start with first is what I do to prepare my fabric. When you're making a garment, and say this is the front of a blouse, I would mark straight down from the edge about 1/4 inch in. This is my own feelings. Your pattern that you're working from might require something different, but you can take your pattern and go, well, I'm going to do it a little bit different, which is what I do a lot of the time. And on your pattern, you're going to find the markings of where the buttonholes should be. I always like to have my buttonhole, one of them at least, be right there. So when I do this, my buttons don't pop out. So I situate my buttonholes that I know I'm going to get one there. And I do like to space my buttonholes about 3 inches apart. Everything, like I said, is my own personal adjustments. You might speak to another educator, and she might give you a different idea. And that's great, because between all those ideas, you're going to make your buttonhole exactly the way you want. So I've placed a mark that's about 1/4 inch in all the way up and down. You'd be very precise. And then I drew lines of where I want my buttonholes to be. And like I mentioned, that I do want one right there, but I do my buttonholes this way. So also when I do this, my buttonholes don't pop out. Whenever you do make a garment and you're doing buttonholes, inside your facing should be interfacing. You're going to put that on the inside between the layers. Now, many years ago, I was watching a sewing show, and it was done by Sandra Betzina. She's a nationally known educator of sewing, wonderful lady. And she did something with buttonholes that I went, oh my goodness, I have to try what she's suggesting. She recommended that besides having the interfacing in here, that she takes regular tearaway stabilizer and she puts it underneath. And it's only temporary. We're going to tear it away when it's done. But the results could make a big difference because, for instance, if you had a fabric that had a lot of fibers that stick out, the stabilizer is going to prevent those fibers getting stuck on the feed dogs of your machine. It's going to let it move a lot easier. So right now I'm going to start doing a buttonhole. On this particular, and what I do recommend, as long as it's possible for you, to always look for, if you don't have a machine that does a buttonhole, look for machines that have a one-step buttonhole. Because when you go to machines that are 4 and sometimes 6 steps, it's a lot more work. And what's going to happen is you're not going to be changing the settings at the right time for each buttonhole. So you might end up with buttonholes that are different sizes, which could be challenging. You want to have fun with your project. You don't want to be making those kind of mistakes. So with a buttonhole foot that looks like this, which is very common on a lot of brands, you'll see this long piece. And what you do is you open this piece up here and you take your button and you place it in there and you leave it there so it doesn't fall out. Now you're going to place this on the machine, but because we did that, the machine is going to know how big to make the buttonhole that fits that button. So here we go. I'm going to place this right on the machine. And if you notice, in this case, the button is in the back of the machine. Yes, there are certain brands, very few, that the button is in the front. But I'm talking in general of the most common. Okay, before I do put the foot on so I can show you, I want to show you how I'm going to be lining this up. There's lines here in the foot. And these green lines are going to be lined up with this line going this way. And my other line in the center is going to be lined up with this one. And now that I'm just noticing, I mark this in pen. Please don't mark your garment in pen. Use a chalk marker underneath. I did mark it with a blue chalk marker, and I was thinking maybe in this video you wouldn't see it so well, so I did it with a pen. But I'll be lining up those lines with the presser foot that I'm going to start that way. So now I'm going to put this foot on the machine. I'm going to start at this end. Remember, you got your interfacing is inside, and I did iron it, but it let go with all my movement. But generally, I like using an iron-on interfacing. So here I've positioned the lines with my lines. The green lines that are going this way are lined up with my line going here, and the other line going from front to back is lined up with that little red marker in there. So I'm just going to put my foot down, and I am ready to go, but there's one step missing. So on my machine here, I have quite a few buttonholes, but I'm just going to pick a standard one, which is the rectangular one. It's number 80. So I'm going to pick that buttonhole. Now, when I do go to start, because I picked a buttonhole, and this is very common with a lot of the computerized machines, that when I go to start, my button here is red, meaning red can't go. You want green. There's one step I missed. Now, if I do push on the foot pedal, on this machine and several others, I get a message that says lower the buttonhole lever. There are other machines that don't say those words. They give you an error message, and then your manual would tell you what you missed. But over here, there is a lever, and it's hiding underneath, inside the machine. And I'm going to pull that lever all the way down. And this lever, on this particular model, and most of them, the lever goes behind this white piece here. And now that I did that, on the front of my machine, I have my green button ready to go. So now when I push on the pedal, it's going to do the whole buttonhole from start to finish. Now remember, because I put a button in the foot, it knows what size to make the buttonhole. So my line that goes from front to back is really irrelevant. It's just a matter of placing it in the right spot. The machine is going to stop on its own because it is computerized. There are mechanical machines that do a one-step buttonhole, but when it comes back to the beginning of where it started, you have to know when to take your foot off the pedal. But the one step is still the same process, and it will know how big to make it. So now that I did that, I'm going to trim, pull my fabric out, and I've got my buttonhole. There it is. Now, the machines do not cut the buttonhole open. Some people have asked me, oh, is it gonna, when I hit the scissor cutter, is it going to open the buttonhole? No, it's not. You got to use your seam ripper. Again, Sandra Betzina did this, and I was like, oh my goodness, whenever I used one of those chisels, I always seem to have always hit my threads and broke my buttonhole. So as I'm going to push to one side. Now, only one time in my life have I pushed too hard and broke my bar tack. You don't want to do that. So only once I did it. I said words truck drivers don't say. Okay, so then when I turn around, I'm going to go to the other side. So using the seam ripper is also what I learned from Sandra Betzina. So there's my buttonhole. And then if you have any little whiskers in there, you're just going to trim them out with a good pair of scissors. So if you have whiskers, you're just going to go in and trim them neatly. So there's your buttonhole. So hope you enjoyed that lesson, and I'll see you again on another lesson. Bye.